quotes, infused with the scent of potpourri. The films we commit to memory, crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com, and while every episode will always be free, if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for tons of bonus audio content, including TV and book reviews, immediate reaction, movie reviews, Patreon potpourri episodes, movie commentary tracks, and much more. If you listened to last week's episode, it was basically a 3.5 hour collection of recordings I made for Stranger Things that were previously exclusive to Patreon. That episode was kind of a teaser for that, so if you want more, or if you want to hear my thoughts on the final 2 episodes of Stranger Things 4, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and pledge at the appropriate tier level. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media and on Letterboxd at Obsessive Viewer. And joining me today to review Thor, Love and Thunder and Hustle on the podcast are Tiny, who can be found on Letterboxd at Obsessive Tiny, and Ben, the creator of themoviestate.com, who can be found on Twitter at themoviestate. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening? Either one.
Doing awesome. How are you guys?
Nice.
Wonderful. I'm wonderful. The world is wonderful. Country is wonderful. Nothing is going wrong.
Yes, nothing is on fire or yep.
Everyone, women are doing wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, kids are doing wonderful.
Yep.
Nothing to complain about.
No.
Happy 4th of July.
Yes. Yeah, it is 4th of July weekend, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Doesn't really feel like it. Yeah. So today on the podcast, we're going to be reviewing Thor, Love and Thunder, the new MCU movie. And I'm very excited to talk about that because the three of us saw it at a press screening last night, and I have a feeling it's going to be a good discussion. And in addition to that, we're going to be reviewing the new Happy Madison movie on Netflix, Hustle, which is pretty. It's going to be an interesting. That's going to be a less interesting discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah. But before we get to all of that, Ben, would you mind telling us like what you've got going on over at themoviestate.com? Anything like recent, and also your Happy Valley project over at Midwest Film Journal and other stuff.
As we're recording this, we're officially halfway over with the year.
Yeah.
So I this week I posted all of my best of the year so far. I did movie scenes, movie performances, favorite TV shows, and favorite movies of the year so far.
Nice. Very nice. What do you want to give like one example from each of those categories? Not necessarily your top one, but like if you were to like throw a suggestion out or whatever.
Sure. Let's see. I know favorite we'll say favorite scene. One of them was in Top Gun Maverick, the scene between Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer.
Oh yeah,
I really like that one. I mean, the whole third act is pretty much some of the best stuff of the year, but I just love the quieter moment between the two of them. That was it needed that emotional backbone of the movie, and that really helped. So that was a great one. Favorite performance, her name's Anna Maria Vartolome, I think is how you pronounce that. She is the lead in Happening. which is a depressingly relevant movie right now about a girl who is in school and discovers she's pregnant and tries to go and get an abortion in 1960s France, where it's illegal. And she's really fantastic in that. I think that one is available to rent or buy digitally.
Yeah.
I haven't checked yet, but I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's currently available to rent. Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommend that.
Nice.
Favorite TV shows? Definitely Atlanta. I'm pretty sure neither one of you guys watches that, but it's fantastic. All of it. It came back this year for the first time since I think 2018.
Oh wow!
So it's really great, really funny, really smart, sharp social commentary, and everyone in that is just fantastic. Donald Glover and Tyree Henry, Lakeith Stanfield, Zazie Beetz, just all of them really great.
Nice, very nice. Tiny, you watched, I feel like you watched maybe the first season of Atlanta, am I right?
Yeah, I did. And I really liked it. I feel like there was a big gap between the first and second seasons too.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't watch the second season for that reason. And yeah, because this is going to be the third season, right, Ben?
Yes, the third season is over now. The fourth, which comes out next year, will be the last.
Okay, gotcha. I think I basically just gave up on it, but I did think it was really good though. Does FX? It's on FX, right? They don't have like a streaming. They have like a streaming app though.
It's on Hulu.
Hulu. Okay. Okay.
All of it is on Hulu now.
Okay. I might give it a shot.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it's really easy to get through. I mean, they're all half-hour episodes. I think there was only like 8 episodes per season, so super quick and easy.
Nice.
Yeah, I kind of want some more Donald Glover. I haven't seen him do anything in so long, and I'm just a massive fan of his. He's so talented. So
Yeah.
I'll probably give it a shot soon.
It's very much like Master of None, which Matt, I know you're a fan of. Tiny, have you watched any of that?
I haven't, but I know Matt endorses it, and I'm sure I'd like it.
Yeah, it's very much like that. It's just all it very much feels like it's from a singular voice, and it's great. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Anything else from what you've been posting and everything, and what's on the horizon, Ben?
By the time this one comes out, you'll be able to read my review of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Nice.
Which is one of, if not the my favorite current movie of the year so far. It's a stop motion animated movie / live action movie from A24. Just a really fantastic movie that I don't know if I can really accurately describe, but really funny, really heartwarming. Comes to Indy on July 15th. So I was able to go and see it as part of Indy Film Fest, and that was a really fun experience.
Nice. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that one. I unfortunately missed it at Indie Film Fest, but I'm very, very eager for it, because it seems like I'd seen some of the YouTube videos of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, like way back in the day, and I don't know anything about the plot of the movie or anything. I don't really care to. I know what I'm getting into, but there's just something about that character that makes me feel like what I'm hoping for is that it is like a big bundle of warmth. It feels like this could be like a movie that could just really, really just like make me just feel like an ounce of happiness for once. Like, it just looks very charming.
That is for sure how I would describe it. Yeah.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
Without being like schmaltzy
Mhm.
or what's the other word? Tearjerker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
It's also like Jenny Slate does the voice of Marcel, and she is so good at that voice performance. It's really incredible.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Tiny, do you have any interest or history with Marcel the Shell with Shoes On?
None at all, but I do really like Jenny Slate a lot.
Nice.
She's funny.
Yeah.
There's not really that many YouTube videos out there, from what I can tell. I watched them after I saw the movie, and there's only a couple of them, and they're only like 3 or 4 minutes long.
Oh, really? I thought that there was a lot
I
more
think
of it.
so.
Huh. I mean, I
don't know.
Yeah. I only saw it.
Maybe
like,
they're somewhere else. I'm not the best at YouTube, so yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well,
If you watch the few that I watched, you'll get a good feel for the movie, I think.
Yeah, totally. Nice. Awesome. Well, do you guys want to get into our reviews tonight?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Well, first up, we're going to be reviewing Thor: Love and Thunder, which is the latest MCU movie directed by Taika Waititi. Chris Hemsworth reprising his role. Also, Natalie Portman coming back in the role of Jane Foster. Tessa Thompson's also in it. There's a whole bunch of people. Christian Bale playing Gore, the God Butcher, the villain this time. I'm going to go ahead and read a plot summary courtesy of IMDb. Once, as you guys know, we're going to be doing a non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review. I'll play a clip from the trailer before we go into spoilers, but if you want to check the show notes for timestamps, you can check that out at obsessiveviewer.com/OV375. So, the plot summary for Thor: Love and Thunder is: Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gore the God Butcher, who intends to make the gods extinct. So, Tiny, Ben, what were your expectations going into Love and Thunder? And if you want to also throw in your, like, an overview of your thoughts on the first 3 Thor movies. Thor, The Dark World, and Thor Ragnarok.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, so my expectations, I think I had about 3 questions going into this, because I wasn't really worried so much about the plot or how it would fit into the MCU proper or any of that. Mostly wanted to know how it would look, because I feel like I have not heard anyone else say this before, but I feel like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness looked like shit. I thought that it just looked awful. And maybe it's because we saw it at a press screening on a standard definition screen. Maybe that was part of it, but I just thought it looked terrible. So I was really curious to see if this would be any better. The other question I had was how much Taika Waititi would I be able to stomach? Because I'm generally a fan of his. I liked Thor Ragnarok. And even since then, he has just exploded. Like, loved Jojo Rabbit, but even other than that, he's been in so much other stuff in front of and behind the camera. Like, he was in Free Guy last year. Yeah. I haven't watched Our Flag Means Death yet, but from what I understand, that's very much his, style and his brand of humor. And then he's just in a ton of other stuff. And my third question was how they were going to be able to bring back Natalie Portman, because I tried this week before the press screening, I tried to watch all 3 of the Thor movies going into it, but I got about halfway through the first Thor movie, and it was just such a slog. I couldn't get through it. And then just other things, I couldn't get around to it.
Yeah.
Before I started watching the first one, I literally could not remember a single thing from any of those first two Thor movies, other than they had Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston and Natalie Portman was a scientist, and that's about it. Yeah, I don't know. So, and I think my initial reaction to Thor: Love and Thunder was that I thought it was pretty fun. I liked the stuff that Taika Waititi clearly brought to it. It's definitely funny, and has his sense of humor. So maybe if you're less of a fan of his, you probably won't like it as much. But there's definitely some issues with it, which we'll get into. Some plot issues, some pacing issues, some just general things. But I'll yield the microphone for now.
Nice. Tiny, your thoughts on the Thor franchise and your expectations for Love and Thunder, and what'd you think?
Well, I don't have a particularly high opinion of the Thor franchise. Like Ben said, the first two are really forgettable. I feel like Thor didn't really pop until the first Avengers movie, and then he's been great ever since. But the first two movies are so forgettable and just not really all that good. They're not terrible; they're just not very good. Ragnarok was fantastic. I think that's probably the best one of the individual Thor movies. But I feel like Thor did all his shining in the Avengers team up movies and everything. I had high expectations for Love and Thunder just because, kind of like Ben was saying, Taika Waititi is just almost can do no wrong right now. He is one of the top directors in Hollywood, probably, or like one of the hottest directors in Hollywood. I'll probably put it that way. And I'm a big fan. I adore him. I think he's really good at the whole dramedy thing. He can really balance the jokes and the drama really masterfully. I mean, he's one of the best I've seen at it. And the drama is really dramatic, and the comedy is really funny. It's hilarious stuff. And so that's just a big skill of his as a director and a writer. So I had high expectations for that reason, and I think a lot of the post Endgame Marvel stuff has been pretty decent, but nothing's really blown me away. I mean, WandaVision's maybe my favorite post Endgame Marvel stuff so far, and that was pretty good. So I wanted this to top that. I've also become really attached to Thor as a character. I really love what they've done with him as a character. Because he's so full of himself and over the top at the beginning, and he's just been humbled time after time after time, and he has to relearn who he is like every single time we see him, and it's really tragic, and it's amazing that he really developed a sense of humor throughout the Avengers movies and everything, and it's my favorite thing about him. I just love it because you would expect him to be this unflinching badass and kind of toxic masculinity type of guy based on how he looks and what he does and his power and all that stuff, but he's so funny and he's really disarming. It's just crazy to see how his character's developed into that. So I was just looking forward to the further progression of that in this movie. Those were kind of my expectations going in.
Nice. Yeah. So Thor. For me, I agree with what you guys said. The first two Thor movies are not really that. The first one is passable. But the second one, The Dark World, was a just complete mess for me in terms of just the overall narrative. Villain was completely bland, a complete waste of Christopher Eccleston, and that movie was just so that movie kind of felt like it was just a piece of the Infinity Saga, and like trying to just incorporate one of the Infinity Stones into the mix in a way that just wasn't that interesting. But then Ragnarok, Taika Waititi taking over, reinventing, rebranding Thor as this with this comedic take, and having like a buddy movie with Bruce Banner, and having this like large scale, like weird, crazy adventure story that also brings the heat with the drama, with like the destruction of Asgard and all that. That was fantastic. Like, Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite movies of the MCU for that reason. It was just such a breath of fresh air. And Tiny, I agree with you that Thor as a character has become something else entirely from what he was at the beginning. He is, like you said, he's been humbled countless times, but he has just this, I think because Chris Hemsworth sells the comedy so well, he's incredibly gifted at that. It just works so it works so well with Taika Waititi's style. So because of all of that, I was very excited for Thor Love and Thunder. And like, I even remember seeing the first trailer and thinking, man, I wish I could go back, and I wish that the world could go back and Taika Waititi could do the first two Thor movies in addition to Ragnarok, because he just gets it. And so Thor Love and Thunder, having said all of that, it pains me to say I didn't like this movie. The more I think about it, the more agitated I get, the more disappointed I am, and the more kind of fearful or nervous I am for Phase 4 and beyond of the MCU. To kind of give some overall thoughts, and then we can go into our non-spoiler discussion and everything. I felt like Thor Love and Thunder was a almost complete mess in terms of the plotting. There are large character turns that are like, it feels like a movie that was cut down significantly. Characters change into different versions of the character within a matter of scenes without any explanation. And I'll say this in non-spoiler, for Christian Bale, I thought did a fine job with what he was given, but for a character called Gore the God Butcher, there's not much God butchering. And by the end of the movie, I kind of, I enjoyed the humor, I enjoyed the energy for the most part, but by the end of the movie, I was just thinking, oh my god, I kind of know what they're doing with Thor, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. I don't like how contrived all of this was for this movie. So, I don't know. I have a lot of complicated feelings and angry feelings about this movie, and I'm very excited for us to hash it out and everything, and me to be damper on the parade, maybe. But yeah, I have, I came out of the theater thinking, yeah, it's a 3-star movie, that's fine. And then while thinking about it throughout the day, I was like, it's a 2.5-star movie, and it could be a 2 movie by the time I finish ranting throughout this episode. Yeah, I would go so far as to say I probably didn't like the movie. I didn't enjoy the movie as much as I thought I would. So, yeah. So, what did we think about Thor Love and Thunder?
I think I definitely understand where you're coming from, Matt. I think because there were times when I was watching it in the moment when I thought, like, wait, are they? This is what they're gonna do now? And like there's a moment where I guess the plot kicks in and certain characters are put in danger.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that to avoid spoilers. And then you think that, they're gonna go in and bust in and go into action. And they don't, and they go on this, 15-20 minute detour, which is,
Yes.
I mean, the detour itself was fun and funny, but it felt like I don't know if I want to say a studio note, but and not even really fan service, because the detour was really not all that fan servicey that I could tell. But it just felt unnecessary. So I understand that. I think the only thing that kept it alive for me was that, the detour was funny, and the other parts where the script was lacking, there were some great jokes and some really funny bits, and some decent character development that saved it for me.
Nice. Yeah. Tiny, what did you think?
I guess I'm gonna have to be the voice of positivity here. No, I kid. Yeah, I really liked it. I ended up giving it a 4-star rating on Letterboxd. I think, I don't know if it's like bias or what. Yeah, Dad. And there's elements of that stuff like that in this movie, and that just spoke to me so personally that I couldn't not love it, I guess. And so that kind of affected my reaction to it, and so I think maybe my reaction's slightly inflated for that reason. I'm just thrilled with Thor lately, the character.
Yeah, it broke up a little bit there. What was the part that you liked a lot?
Just the kind of the toying with fatherhood and becoming a father. That stuff really spoke to me, and I don't know, I just had a huge reaction to that, and I think I can't not react to that stuff right now. So maybe my reaction and my rating are a little bit inflated for that reason. But I also just, again, Taika Waititi, his style just really speaks to me. The comedy fused with the drama is just amazing, the way he does that, and he's really Chris Hemsworth has such a skill for that too. Yeah. And I love the character so much that it's hard to not love a movie he's in. I was kind of like Ben said, I was a little worried about incorporating Jane back into the story as well. I'm not really the biggest Natalie Portman fan. She's not a bad actress by any stretch, but I've never been blown away by her ever.
I am the biggest Natalie Portman fan.
Honestly, my favorite performance of hers is The Professional.
Oh yeah, wow!
I love that movie, and I think she's really good in it. But that was 30 years ago. But yeah, anyways, I was worried about how they were going to do that, and I think you could make the argument that bringing her back in, incorporating her back into this was a little clunky, maybe more than a little clunky. She was sort of shoehorned in, but I think they kind of saved it and made it work, and I ultimately enjoyed how that turned out. So yeah, that was really good. And then Gore, Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. I'd say kind of a middle of the road villain, maybe even kind of on the good side villain as far as Marvel goes, anyways, because we've had some real shitty villains.
Yeah.
The Dark Elf and fucking robot or something in the first movie.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't think I got to that point this past week.
I mean, Gore was no Hela for sure.
Right.
I think she's the best out of the individual Thor movies for sure. She was fantastic. Kate Blanchett,
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. But I think maybe he's in a solid second place, and I think Christian Bale did fine. I think he was the stakes were pretty good with him being put into the movie. I bought it, and I thought they were, it was a good conflict and good stakes, if you will. So yeah, that's kind of my wide reaction to it.
Yeah.
To speak to the Natalie Portman of it all, there was just no way that they were going to be able to not shoehorn her in. I mean, after not being in NEO since the second Thor movie, which was what, 2011 or something.
Yeah.
There's just no way they were going to be able to bring her back without making it feel awkward or clunky. But I liked her character development in this. I liked the way that she had her motivation for being the new, the way that she felt this need to have those powers, and I thought she did a fine performance. I thought she did fine. The thing that, and maybe this is just me, the thing that I was distracted by was, it looked like her makeup was done really heavily when she was in the Thor costume. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but
Definitely.
it was, I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like they had to do a ton of retconning to get her into the movie, and it was relatively smooth, but still, I think both of you mentioned, or at least Ben mentioned, like pacing issues in the movie. I'm sure on a second rewatch, that's going to jump out a lot more to me, because I think there's more than a few points in the movie that were like, okay, we need to get this going or get this moving. And it's only a 2-hour movie too. I think it's not,
credits.
But these Marvel movies have been pushing 3 hours, So yeah, there's definitely issues with the movie, but overall, So yeah, Matt, what?
Sorry, I just to reiterate what I was saying earlier. Like, I liked the way that they framed the bringing her back. They do this this jokey, like, clip reel kind of thing with Taika Waititi narrating it as Korg, and I thought that was some of the funnier parts.
Yes.
And yeah, yes, it was clunky, but I liked the way that they stylistically did it.
Yes, I loved that opening monologue and the closing monologue, or the kind of setting things up with Korg. That was great. I really like. I mean, I honestly don't necessarily think that Natalie Portman was shoehorned in. I think the problem was that her character is reintroduced in a way that is surprising, and her motivation for wanting to become Thor, or not even that. That's not even what happens. What happens is that Mjolnir speaks to her and draws her to it, and then she becomes Thor. The problem is, we get the introduction of her, the reintroduction of her, we see what her motivation is for wanting to be a god, basically, and then the next scene we see from her, she is Thor. Like, there is such a jump, and I'm just sitting there thinking, like, what the hell is going on? We have nothing. And then there's a scene later where she's talking to Valkyrie, because she's stressed out and everything, and then they have this conversation that feels like it is calling back, or it is informed by a scene that they cut for time. Like, it seems like they had a scene earlier in the movie, maybe one that introduced the concept of Jane Foster as Thor, and then they cut it to get it under 2 hours, and then just figured, oh, well, it's fine. They'll have that history or whatever. It'll make sense. And it just doesn't for me. And it just felt like so much of this movie was cut down. I don't understand why. I honestly don't. And it's so frustrating to me because the things that they seemingly cut down were Jane's, a very big part of Jane's arc, presumably, and Gore the God Butcher, we get his, it just felt so lacking of purpose. And the whole purpose of Gore the Butcher, the God Butcher, is he wants to butcher gods. And we see the aftermath of one or two god butchering and everything. And then we get this whole thing that is like a kidnapping kind of thing. And that's fine. But also, it didn't give me any kind of... It didn't, like, as much as I enjoyed Christian Bale, kind of not really hamming it up, but kind of going to some surprising places with just the kind of energy he brought. As much as I enjoyed that, I didn't enjoy him as a villain or, like, that character, because I felt like so much of this movie felt so cut down, and just it did not have that kind of cohesion that it felt just so lifeless to me, and it bothered me so much. And we'll talk in spoilers, but the ending, like where it ends with Thor in particular, I was angry. Like I was angry about that, and we'll talk about that in spoilers, but I was just so annoyed with this movie. Yeah.
I feel like that the whole part that you're talking about, Jane becoming Thor, we did have the scene where she goes and looks at Mjolnir, and it starts to basically implies that it starts to do something around her, and it's kind of subtle, and we do get that scene. But then you're right, the next scene is Thor. I guess that just didn't bother me. I don't think you're wrong, but I don't know. I think it would have been cool to see her become Thor, like see the hammer come back together and like force its way into her hand or something, or I don't know. I think it would have been cool if like the display they had at New Asgard was like Mjolnir, like anyone could just go up and try to pick it up. That's kind of the thing, almost like a sword in the stone kind of thing. Yeah. I think that would have been cool, something like that. But it's definitely a solid criticism of it. I think we could have had something to bring that together. And I do agree with you, Matt, that it did feel like there was some interesting editing choices, like content-wise, not like stylistic editing, but like content editing. I think we could have used some more god butchering, like you said, because pretty the backstory for Gore is set up really well at the beginning of the movie, and that was a cool scene. I liked it. It was well done. And then we just kind of find him later on, and we didn't really get. It's all in the background, like you were saying. So they definitely could have improved on that, I think.
Yeah. I'll talk about the prologue or the origin and everything, but Ben, did you have thoughts on that?
What was I gonna say? Not really related to any of what you guys were saying, but I think what elevates this one for me above more recent is 4, 6, whatever we're in now. What elevates it is there really weren't any like bullshit fan servicey moments like what you got in like in Doctor Strange, or sorry to say this, but Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm sorry if that'll get me perma-banned from the show, but I really did not like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Wow.
Because of those bullshit fan servicey moments. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok really, or sorry, Thor Love and Thunder really didn't have those for me, from what I could tell. It really felt like a closed off horror movie. There wasn't some moment or scene where it feels like they're trying to set something up for the rest of Phase 4. And I appreciate that. That goes a long way for me.
Yeah. So, I will push back on the fan service thing. Like, I mean, that's totally fine about, Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man No Way Home. I didn't feel like those were fan servicey in my opinion, but to each their own. But I think the second scene in this, like the second time. Okay, so there are two scenes involving the Asgard Asgard theater people that were such a hit in Ragnarok because they're doing like the backstory for Thor: The Dark World, and here that felt like it felt like pandering. Honestly, it felt like it was great to see them again. It was a fun gag, but it felt like Disney or Marvel or whoever was like, hey, Taika, that scene really killed in Ragnarok. Let's do more of that because that's what our marketing research and everything says. That's what was memeified and everything. So let's include two scenes. Like, they only needed one of those scenes, and it didn't need to be the play thing because we already had the backstory given to us from Korg, and the backstory, that was just for fan service, and that bothered me too. And on that same, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna.
Thought.
No, I was gonna bring up another fan servicey thing, so I'll rant about that after you make your point.
No, I had completely forgotten that the play scene was in Ragnarok.
Oh yeah,
as well. But what I mean by fan service is like teasing, like the Illuminati scene from Multiverse of Madness. That was fan service.
And
to back me up, Sam Raimi said the same thing. He said that's why that's in there. So
yeah, that's fair.
That's what I meant by fan service.
And that's totally fair. That's totally fair. But I think that informed, and I don't think Tiny's seen Multiverse of Madness yet, so I'm going to dance around it. But I kind of feel like that at least played, while fan service as it may have been, it did play into giving more context or giving more texture to the villain of the movie. I'll just leave it at that. But you're right, it is definitely fan servicey.
But the play scene in Love and Thunder is padding out the new Asgard and the way that they have built this society now. Because it's part of that montage where you're kind of introduced to how things are going there now.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I still didn't like it because it felt like an algorithm kind of thing, or it felt like a studio note that they wanted more of that. But the other arguably bigger piece of fan service for me that didn't bother me quite as much. It didn't really bother me all that much. In fact, I'll go ahead and say it was the Guardians of the Galaxy sequence at the beginning. And like when I was trying to formulate my thoughts on the movie and really like was starting to realize like I wasn't that big a fan of this movie, I kept thinking like, that little Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 teaser we got in the middle, instead of the backstory or instead of character arcs for the villain or the co-lead, was fun. And it was fun, but it also just felt yeah.
I was just glad that they were not in the movie more, because I kind of had a feeling that they would be, just based on the trailers.
Yeah, I kind of did too. Yeah, fortunately,
I thought those scenes were fun, at least, you know. And maybe they didn't serve the story overall all that well, but they were fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it also just felt like checking off a box, and I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Tiny?
I guess the only fan service I can really think of is that, you know, I did just the whole idea of bringing back Jane, I guess, and making her Thor. That's kind of fan servicey, or kind of pandering in a way, I guess. It doesn't bother me because I think it fits well in the story, and I liked it a lot. But I guess I wasn't really looking for it. And as a frame of reference, I haven't seen Multiverse of Madness yet, so I can't really comment on that fan service. But I mean, it's something that oh gosh, it's killing me. The brothers who directed the Avengers movie.
Oh, the Russo brothers.
Russo brothers pander like crazy, and it's fine because, again, it fits, or it doesn't bother me because it fits, but it jumps out as well. Like it's not subtle at all. It's blatant pandering, and so anything that was fan service in this movie felt subtle to me and felt nuanced enough that it didn't bother me. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Just thinking back to, I think it's the first Infinity. Oh gosh. Avengers Infinity War. Mm-hmm. Jesus, why can't I remember the name of the movie? Where all the women like team up.
Yeah.
Like one of the characters like, oh, she's not alone, and then all the female heroes team up. Like that was so hammy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. It was cool, and I think it's cool that it's in the movie, and I support that idea. It's just that was hammy as hell. So I think back, I'm thinking to what they did with this, way better crafted in my book.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Ben, any thoughts on that?
I mean, Endgame to me was just like 90% fan service, but it worked there because it was a culmination of 25, 26, whatever, 22 movies that came before it. So there, it's more or less excusable. And yeah, here, it didn't annoy me as much as it has in other movies. Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Can I just transition to my issues with the kind of prologue and the overall tone of the movie?
Yeah, go for it, bud.
Please.
Okay, so I respect Taika Waititi. I loved Ragnarok. I really, really did. What I don't understand is why this movie is so ass backwards in its tone. Like, it's so strange to me that we have a villain called, like I said, Gore the God Butcher, and like the God butchering we get, like it's a little bit, but like we get like the big one is, off screen and we see the aftermath and it's weird, but my kind of big issue though is like the movie opens with this prologue of him wandering the desert, and spoiler alert for the prologue, his daughter dies, and then he kind of stumbles into like a god realm and speaks to a god, and it's so weirdly heightened for comedy, like the god's reactions to him and the kind of playful attitude that he has is very just incongruous with the kind of drama of this man that just lost his daughter and is now being kind of spat on by the god he worships and everything, which I guess is the point, to have that inconsistency in tone, and I guess that is the point of having the kind of comedic spin on it. But when the necro sword just like comes to him, it feels once again, it feels like the movie is rushing to something. It's the same with like Natalie Portman becoming Thor. It's the same with Gore like being the God Butcher after, we don't see him until then or whatever. It's the same with the thing that happens with Thor at the end of the movie, which I'll talk about in spoilers. It all feels so weirdly inconsistent in the tone and unearned for the most part for me. And to leapfrog off of that, the inconsistency of tone, which I think is a Taika Waititi problem. I don't think he knew, or maybe he didn't care to really dive into anything too deep with this, but this movie has some deep themes, but he doesn't. The wackiness and comedy aspect of it kind of trumps anything that he can do with the drama, and it created this void in me that like I had no emotional stakes in this. And to Ben, your point about the detour that happens kind of in the middle portion of the movie, that felt just so superfluous, so meaningless. It is like the main goal for that is switched over mid-scene to where they're like, okay, well, this plan isn't going to work, so we need to do this for no other reason than, oh, there's a cool thing that we can do with it. Like, we need this for reasons that aren't explained, which I'll talk more in spoilers, I guess. And then also just the tone of the, like, gods that they're talking to in that scene is so weird and just wacky, and it's Taika Waititi going full Taika Waititi without doing like anything really, emotionally, like having any emotional gravitas to the drama. So I don't know, the more that I'm talking about it, like I can feel myself ramping up in anger and annoyance, and I know that I'm bogarting the podcast, but I don't think I liked this movie. Yeah. What did you guys think of all of that crap that I just spewed?
I think that's valid. I mean, the scenes where it has both the comedy and the drama, where it tries to do both at the same time, maybe doesn't work. It didn't make me as angry as you, Matt, but
yeah, I
would not disagree with you that it doesn't work as well as they wanted to. The scenes where they stick to the drama exclusively, I think work rather well. The scenes between Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, in particular, those work pretty well. But yeah, I definitely agree that it felt like there was something missing, which is weird because Marvel movies never, if anything, they're too long more often than not.
Yeah.
Maybe Taika Waititi just doesn't want to do long movies. I don't know. But yes, it would have been great because, yeah, I agree. The introduction of Gore was pretty great, and you understand why he flips the switch and goes crazy. Would it have been nice to have a couple more scenes with him and his quest, yeah, absolutely. I think Christian Bale just does such a good job that wouldn't say that it's excused, but it's a little more understandable.
Sure. Tiny?
Man, that's really a bummer. I kind of had the opposite reaction. I think I think the opening scene where the god, I don't even remember what the god's name was or what its relevance was, but I think his kind of, I wouldn't refer to him as a comedic character. I think he's just so aloof and nonchalant that I don't know that it clashed with the drama of what just happened as much for me. That didn't throw me. It really didn't throw me. And I'd also think it's critical for the transformation of Gore, because the indignation that he's suffering as a result of that God's attitude, it transforms him, right? And I think it transforms him so strongly that the sword presents itself to him because it can sense it in him, just like Mjolnir can sense the worthiness of Jane Foster or Thor. I think that kind of tracks for me. And I said earlier, I have the opposite reaction that you guys did with the way that Taika Waititi blends comedy with drama. I do think sometimes he tends to be a little heavy on the comedy. I think someone who's maybe better at it or has done it better is Joss Whedon. I mean, he's canceled now, but that's kind of the tone he set with the first Avengers movie, is the ability to blend those two things, and I think he did that beautifully. And Taika Waititi has kind of taken up the mantle with the Russo brothers. Shane Black did it well as well in the Iron Man 3 and stuff like that. But I think Taika Waititi is really skilled. That I think he does a good job. But sometimes the comedy can get a little heavy. I will say that, and it can undercut the. I think at his heart he is a comedic person, or that's where his art really shines, is in the comedy. And so I think he overemphasizes it sometimes. But I will say that, and I think that happened in this movie more than his other ones, especially like Jojo Rabbit. Like he did such a good job with that movie, balancing those two things masterfully. But in this movie, I will say the comedy did kind of overrun a few times.
Yeah, I think the whole goat bit, the screaming goats, really didn't. There was a diminishing returns as the movie went on, and he just kept going back to it.
Sure.
And it's a bit that's about 10 years too late. And yeah, I mean, before we go into spoilers, I guess you guys are both on the record as liking Jojo Rabbit, because I feel like that's his best work of blending comedy and drama. I mean, I haven't really seen his earlier stuff like Hunt for the Wilder People, but
me neither.
I really like Jojo Rabbit too.
Me too. Oh yeah. Do you guys want to go into spoilers for Thor: Love and Thunder?
Real quick, do you guys think that only Taika Waititi should be allowed to make Thor movies from now on?
No, I think they should probably give it to someone else, honestly. This just left such a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know why it ended up the way it did, especially after Ragnarok, but it really feels like he just wasn't as into it. And I feel like that really showed.
Obviously I don't feel like he can be the only one to make Thor movies. I think that's silly, and the MCU has a history of rotating directors. They get a movie or two or maybe three. That's kind of the shtick of the MCU. So Yeah, I think he's made his impact. I think he's shot his shot, if you will, as the kids say.
Yeah.
I think he's succeeded, and he's done enough. So, I mean, if he wants to make a third one, go for it. I'm in favor of that. But I think it'd be cool to see someone else come in too, and then do another Thor movie. Yeah.
Do wonder if the general reaction is going to be kind of similar to yours, Matt, of people who have just kind of gotten tired of Taika Waititi and his shtick, because, like I said, he's been everywhere the last couple of years, and I wonder if they will start to kind of get tired of that. It's going to be interesting to see when this comes out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we'll see. Do you guys want to go into spoilers now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. We're going to go into spoilers for Thor: Love and Thunder. If you want to skip over it, check the show notes for timestamps. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, spoilers on for Thor: Love and Thunder.
Kids, get your popcorn now. Let me tell you the story of the space Viking, Thor Odinson. He was no ordinary man. He was a god. After saving planet Earth for the 500th time, Thor set off on a new journey. Well, he got in shape. He went from dad bod to god bod. And after all that, he reclaimed his title as the one and only Thor. Oh, spoke too soon.
Jane?
Okay, so spoilers on for Thor: Love and Thunder. Where would you guys like to begin with our spoiler discussion on this movie?
Guess the bit with the kids.
Yes,
I think that that was the point where I kind of started to question, like, wait, this is what they're going to be doing now? This is their motivation?
Yeah.
And not that it's a bad motivation, like you should rescue kids if they're in danger, but
it's the official position of the Obsessive Viewer podcast that if kids are kidnapped, you should rescue them.
Unless you're in Texas or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jesus.
Wait an hour.
Yeah. But yeah, it really felt like the movie introduces this concept of this villain that wants to destroy all the gods, and then realized, oh wait, we're maybe since it's Disney, let's do something a little fluffier. So let's just steal some kids and have that take up a large portion of the movie is getting them back, and that's the soul. Like it felt like that was like a cut and paste from like actual like Gore the God Butcher storyline to like the actual motivation. Like it just felt like it was replacing something that for whatever reason didn't work in their eyes, that in my estimation would have worked a little bit better probably. It felt very just perfunctory. And then even with oh, sorry. I was just going to say, even with like when they had like the Force Ghost thing, like the kind of like meditative thing or whatever, just like that also felt like very just coincidental and not very well thought out, because like it's just like, oh, that's Heimdall's son. Oh, he doesn't know how to do his eyes yet or whatever, but he does have the power of the Bifrost. So let's we can communicate with him there. It's like, oh, okay, that is such whiplash for me, because I don't remember if he was in Thor: The Dark World. I don't remember if it's been stated that Heimdall had a son, but at least introduce him earlier in the movie instead of just showing like this force projection thing and having to tell us like, oh, that's Heimdall's son, and like just slowing down the movie to explain like who this character is. It felt so haphazard to me and so frustrating.
I think I agree with the whole Force Ghost thing. That was goofy, and I wasn't really a fan. And it came out of nowhere. Like, have they always been able to do that? Like, I don't know. That was odd. But I completely disagree with kidnapping the kids, because I think we find out later on that Gore did that because he had to lure Thor away because he needed Stormbreaker to operate the Bifrost to get to Eternity. So I think that's why he took the kids, and he took the kids because he wanted to get him away from New Asgard so that he could kind of isolate him in his own realm, make it easier to fight him and get Stormbreaker away from him.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, especially even like in the moment, because I don't think he like set out to do that. I think he just did it because his first plan failed, and then he had no other options, so he just found these kids. I just my first reaction during that first fight in New Asgard at night was that it was super weird that it was just all these random people just fighting these monsters. Yeah. But then I realized that they were people from Asgard, and it was a little more understandable. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that.
The part involving the kids that kind of bothered me was at the climax where Thor just like gives them his power. I was like, he can do that? How does he not? Why didn't he give Peter Parker his power? Like, why didn't he give Hawkeye his power? Can you imagine literal lightning bolt arrows being shot by Hawkeye? That's so cool.
Web slinging,
so cool. Lightning. That's amazing. How is this just coming out of nowhere right now? So that bothered me on a like conceptual level.
Well, in the movie's defense, I will say, like, it was a temporary thing, I guess, but also that kind of disturbed me or bothered me a little bit, because I was just like, so he doesn't have an army, he has to fight this guy, so let's give these kids that have no training like superpowers to fight off this villain using like just sudden appearance of weapons that are just laying about, and one like teddy bear, and like I'm just like he's putting these kids in harm's, like, what the okay, fine.
I fully expected him in that moment to just be like, okay, you guys go over there now and I can do this, because like, especially early on, it sets him up to be this ultra badass who can defeat an entire army by himself. And these creatures are just these generic CGI creatures, so they didn't seem all that threatening to me. It could have been avoided for sure.
Yeah.
But I think kind of like what I was talking about in non-spoilers, moment right after those kids get kidnapped, they go to this what I forget the name of the planet, but the Zeus planet, City. We'll say it. Right, yes.
Yeah.
And spend, 15, 20 minutes there.
Oh my fucking god, yes.
Just to get a MacGuffin. And I mean, I liked Russell Crowe in that moment. I thought he was funny, I guess. Maybe someone else could have done it, but I don't know. It felt like a waste of time.
It did feel like a waste of time for me too.
It wasn't even some, Illuminati-esque bit of fan service. Right. They could have, I'm glad that it wasn't, but yeah.
It was something that just felt so disconnected. Like the moment that Zeus appears and it does that fun little subversion of it, like, oh, he's not like the hero that everyone expects him to be and everything. That's fun, that's cute. Part of me thinks that the aloofness and the grandiose attitudes of all the gods in this movie makes me think that we're supposed to sympathize with Gore's whole thing. Like, maybe all gods do need to die. Like, okay, sure. But that whole sequence made me so angry because it, like you said, Ben, it is for a MacGuffin, and like we don't have, there's no context for like why the thunderbolt of Zeus is more powerful or why it's needed for that, and you get this just really just dumb conflict, honestly, dumb conflict that doesn't really go anywhere just to get the MacGuffin. I was talking to some of our colleagues from the IFJ, and they said, like, why not, like, that would have been the perfect part to have Gore the God Butcher come and butcher all the gods. Like, why not do that? And then it ends with Thor killing Zeus, presumably, until the mid-credits. And I'm just like, okay, like, and no one cares about that. It just, it felt so annoying to me. I'm sorry to be such a wet blanket, but god damn this movie.
I agree. It was a weird bus stop in the movie. I think he was going for like, oh, people are gonna crack up at this. It's gonna be so funny. Russell Crowe's gonna be Zeus, and I mean, it was kind of funny. You know, it was. Right. There was some comedy there. It looked really cool. The design, but that's about it. That's about all I liked at it. There was some solid comedy in there, but ultimately it was a big drag on the pacing of the movie and just not a great idea, really. I wasn't a fan. Yeah.
It just, in like that having Korg be like, was it there? Yeah, it was there that he was like destroyed, but his face is alive, so it's fine. And then later, which is I will say, we'll talk about this in a bit, but the kind of monochrome, like void of color, black and white sequence, that looked incredible. I loved that. I thought that was so cool. But then also, like, okay, Valkyrie gets injured and then she's sent away. And like she's out of the movie the rest of the movie, and it just felt so backhanded or so undeveloped. Like, just, okay, well, this major character got very seriously injured. Oh, let's throw her away. It's fine. And I don't know. We haven't even talked about Jane's cancer. God damn it. I'm sorry.
Talk about shoehorned. Valkyrie very shoehorned into the movie and felt like it.
Yeah.
I kind of, and I feel like people online were speculating, like, instead of Thor and Jane ending up together at the end of this, it would be Jane and Valkyrie together. And you kind of get a hint of that. Maybe that might happen at one point, but it's never really expanded upon. I don't know.
And like that scene after Jane kind of breaks the sink and everything, and we're kind of clued into the whole fact that I just made this connection just now, and I'm even more annoyed with it, but that they just basically did the same thing to Jane that they did to Tony in Iron Man 2. Like, oh, the thing that's helping you, that's keeping you alive, is actually killing you. God damn it. Anyway.
See, and I didn't even get that until they said it.
Because it's not there. It's not there until they say it in the third act of the fucking movie. Right. Like, it's just, it suddenly comes up, and I'm like, okay, fine, yeah. Fine, whatever. Because we don't even see, like, we see her open the book that, because Mjolnir is, like, trying to, like, goad her into coming to it. Like, we see her open the book and says, like, oh, it can heal you, or not even heal you, it's great health or whatever. And then the next scene, she's fucking Thor. I'm just like, develop the characters, like, spend some time with them. Instead, we get this very long running gag of Stormbreaker being jealous of Thor, and I'm like, god damn, like, that's That's an inanimate object. Develop the actual sentient characters. You gave one of them cancer. Like, let them develop in the movie. I'm sorry.
Non-specific cancer.
Yes. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Generic cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I do not to change directions too quickly, but I do kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on just how you thought the movie looked overall. Because, like I said, Multiverse of Madness I thought looked like shit.
Mm-hmm.
It never looked like anyone in that movie stepped outside of a soundstage the entire time. And maybe it was a little bit different. Maybe it was a little bit of the same thing this time. Like maybe the only outside stuff was like the new Asgard kind of stuff and nothing else. But maybe it's because we saw this in IMAX and we saw Doctor Strange in standard def.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this looked so much better than Doctor Strange. And especially, the black and white planet. I thought that was really cool and just something that we've never seen before visually in an MCU movie.
Yeah. Tiny, what do you think of the visuals in this movie?
They worked for me. I thought they were pretty tops, and, compared to other MCU movies. I thought it was great. I again haven't seen Multiverse of Madness, so I don't have a frame of reference for that. But, I think effects are so good now that I don't even really notice them more, especially in a movie like this. So it didn't jump out to me either way, I guess I'll say. But in my opinion, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So there's this thing that I wasn't aware of until I was talking about this movie with some people from the IFJ. The volume. Quick Google, because I didn't know about it, but the volume, also known as stagecraft, allows filmmakers to shoot lifelike indoor and outdoor sequences in a 3D stage environment within an indoor studio. And yeah, I loved the black and white thing, but seeing learning tangentially about this volume thing or whatever, it just feels like this Colosseum effect that is like the big Zeus scene is they're in the circular room, and it just feels so similar to things we've seen in even back to the Star Wars prequels. It just feels so it's supposed to be grandiose, but it's just it feels like it's just completely generated. It doesn't feel like a real place, and it just it didn't bother me as much as many other things in this movie bothered me, but it was something that was kind of noticeable that when we did get that interesting black and white section, I rejoiced at the uniqueness of it.
That scene, the Zeus scene, I feel like benefited a lot from seeing it in IMAX.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cool seeing it in IMAX. Yeah. Can we talk about the fatherhood aspect? And do you mind if I rant for a second and then you guys can discuss it? Okay. So this movie has throughout the entire movie, Thor is lonely. It's presented as him being lonely for it's kind of presented as him being lonely for love and the affection that he had with Jane. And then the movie ends with Gore making it to eternity, and he's standing there. He has one wish, and the wish that is made, the thing, it just felt so unearned and so random and weird, it made no goddamn sense to me, was that, oh, hey, Thor's like, you can bring your daughter back. And he's like, okay. And so he brings his daughter back. And then he's like, wait, I'm dying. And then Thor's like, oh, I'll raise your daughter. It just felt so... Here's the thing. Marvel in Phase 4, it really seems like they are setting up a new Avengers or Young Avengers thing. Black Widow had Florence Pugh's character. Hawkeye has Kate Bishop. Multiverse of Madness has America, the character. We've got Miss Marvel. We've got all. She-Hulk is a new character that's coming out and everything. We have all of these like young characters. What was that?
The next Black Panther movie is going to introduce a character named Ironheart.
Oh,
I know nothing
okay.
about, but I know she's kind of similar to that.
Nice, yeah. So it's clear that they're doing something. They're building toward that being a team up kind of thing. In most, if not all of those scenarios and those examples seem organic. Here, it's like Thor just suddenly ends up having a kid, and I'm just like, I can't wrap my brain around it. And our friend from the IFJ, Allie, posted on her Letterboxd, and she said something that kind of blew my mind. She ranted against this movie, but she said, I don't have time to bring it up, but she said something to the effect of, why did they, in slight spoilers for Loki, but Kid Loki is right there. Why not give him Kid Loki as his kid companion? Like, that would have made so much more sense than having this random, it made no goddamn sense to me. It felt so contrived. And then by the end of the movie, like the next, like the kind of denouement of the movie is like, oh, we're gonna go raise some hell and everything, and you've got godlike powers and everything, and Jane's dead, but you've got godlike powers. I'm like, whatever, fine, cool, yeah, do whatever. It just doesn't. It felt like such a mess. It felt like they had no idea how to get from point A to point B, with point B being Thor has a kid, and point A being Ragnarok was awesome. Do that again, Taika. So yeah, so what did you guys think of all of this? And again, I feel like I should apologize.
I again was definitely not as mad as you, Matt. I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as a parent, if I knew that I was dying and I had a chance to bring my kid back and live again, just even if I was not around, I would 100% do that. It makes sense as a parent, from one parent to another. The thing that I mean, they definitely set up that the sword is corrupting him and making him crazy. They did not really set up the fact that it's killing him.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm mistaken on that.
Well, no. What it did was, again, it's kind of similar to the Mjolnir thing with Jane. And this was another thing that just made me kind of roll my eyes a little bit. But at one point when Thor is going after Gore and he's about to, like, he's going for the final battle, like, there is literally like a throwaway line. I think Valkyrie or someone else says, if you destroy his sword, he'll die within minutes. He'll be dead. Because it's what's corrupting him. So it's like, okay, so we've got the MacGuffin, we've got to take down this object, and that's going to be like, okay, fine, whatever. Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I
do remember that now, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, give me more than one line about that. About how he is dying.
Yeah.
There was another line about how the sword decays whoever holds it until they eventually die.
Sure.
Yeah.
That wasn't clear though. It wasn't clear though if it decays them mentally or physically or both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say the whole point with Kid Loki, that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that. That would have been cool. But yeah, it's funny. I had the exact opposite reaction to it. I thought it made so much sense. I think it was, I can see how you might see that final scene where Thor tells him you can bring her back, and he does, as kind of convenient, or I don't know, just didn't like it. But I thought it made sense, because what's the only way he could emotionally appeal to Gore to do anything other than kill all the gods in that moment is to the core of what turned him into that, and it's the death of his daughter. And it's like, you can reverse that, you can make it right. I think it makes a lot of sense, actually. I thought it was perfect. And I will give you that it's a bit of a stretch that he just kind of becomes her de facto father or her adoptive father. That's maybe a bit of a stretch, but it was hinted at more than once in the movie that Thor was having, paternal drive throughout the movie. It was something that he's been thinking about. I think that made sense. It's more of a stretch, I will say that. But I guess just on an emotional level, it just like really hit me at my core, and it brought me to tears at the end. Like the final scene, like really got me. And that's it was a personal reaction, so I will say that. But yeah, it made sense for me, and I wasn't bothered by it. It was kind of quick, I will say. The end, I guess the occurrence of events was kind of quick at the end there. But I don't know. I just loved it.
And that's awesome. I'm so, like, and I don't mean this in any kind of backhanded way. Like, I'm genuinely happy that connected with you guys. Like, that's great. I'm happy for you guys.
If you were dying and you could bring back pizza to live on even without you,
I have long said, and this is,
sir, touché.
Well, here's the thing about that. I've long said, and it's now going to be recorded. When I go, pizza's coming with me. She's going to be stuffed. She's going to be in my casket on my chest. So when I die, kill pizza and bury her with me.
I'm sure she'll kill herself because she can't live without you.
The more realistic thing is that she's the one that kills me. But do we have anything else to talk about with Thor: Love and Thunder? Because I do still want to talk about Hustle. We can do a brief review of that. What else do we want to say about Thor: Love and Thunder in spoilers? Do you want to talk about Jane? Sorry. Jane having cancer.
And can we talk about the mid and post credit scenes?
Oh yeah.
Because maybe this will be my soapbox. I feel like Marvel just needs to kill the mid credit scenes.
Yes.
Like, at least the last 2, maybe 3, 4 MCU movies, the post-credit scenes haven't been all that bad. They've just been nothing. The mid-credit scenes, I feel like, have just become ways to set up characters or situations or shit that won't get paid off for another, 8 movies 4 years from now or something. I don't know. Like
I don't disagree with that.
No.
Here, the post-credit scene, it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing to complain about. It's fine. But the mid-credit scene, like, you don't need that.
No, I agree. Well, I really wish that, like, I wish that what they did with Spider-Man No Way Home was standard for all of it, because at the end, at the post credit scene for Spider-Man No Way Home, it's a teaser for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, I'm okay with them keeping mid-credit stingers if it's something that is like they could have had the post-credit scene here with Heimdall and Natalie Portman, which also that was spoiled by the cast list, because I saw Idris Elba in the cast list. But
I kind of thought that was just like a brief flashback.
Yeah, I was trying to think like, what? Okay, yeah. But like have that be the mid-credit scene, and then have like the post-credit scene be a teaser for Ms. Marvel or She-Hulk or whatever the next Marvel movie is. Like, why not do that? Yeah, but because it doesn't really. Yeah, and I mean, as cool as it is that they've got Brett Goldstein, to play Hercules, I don't care about any of that. Like, Thor is like, oh, now Zeus and all of the gods are going to come after me. It's like, okay, that's setting up the next one. Like, I don't really care, honestly.
Yeah,
I just don't care.
And when's it going to pay off?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
2024 on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good point. Yeah, I did not care at all about the Hercules thing either.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, whatever. I don't know.
And not to spoil the Doctor Strange ones, but they're kind of the same deal. The post credits one in that one is fantastic, but mid credits scene is the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and it just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. It's whatever. All right. Have we sufficiently talked out Thor: Love and Thunder?
Sure.
All right. Well, that's our review of Thor: Love and Thunder, and then now we're going to kind of close out with a probably brief review of Hustle, which is currently on Netflix. By the way, Thor: Love and Thunder is in theaters, and it's going to be on Disney Plus here in probably a couple of months. But
probably Labor Day.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, so also if you want to hear my immediate thoughts on it, check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where I do immediate reaction reviews of movies that I see like on the way home from the theater. So as soon as the embargo lifts on Thor: Love and Thunder, I'll post that on Patreon. So yeah. So now let's switch gears and talk kind of briefly. We don't need to really do a spoiler thing, so for this, but Hustle, the new Happy Madison movie starring Adam Sandler. I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from the trailer, and then I'll say the plot summary, and then we'll go into our discussion of Hustle. So here we go.
I'm Stanley Sugarman. I'm a scout for the 76ers. So you're 22 years old, because you can't be in the draft if you're over 22.
Yes, I'm 22 years old.
Who's this?
It's my son.
How old is he?
He's 10 years old.
Okay. This Philly thing. There's room to grow there. I want to coach someday.
Do you love being away from home all the time?
Best chance to win in here is with you out there.
What the hell am I still chasing this for?
So you're just gonna give up on your dream?
Been in this league for 30 years, and it's like I'm nothing.
So Hustle is currently on Netflix, and the plot summary, courtesy of IMDb, is a basketball scout discovers a phenomenal street ball player while in Spain and sees the prospect of his opportunity to get back into the NBA. It stars Adam Sandler. It's a Happy Madison production. It's a drama. And it's kind of an inspirational mentor-mentee story. How did you guys feel about Hustle? Overall.
Go ahead, Tiny.
Okay. I thought it was a perfectly serviceable kind of sports movie. I feel like it's really hard for sports movies to set themselves apart. I feel like there's only a limited amount of themes that you can run with in a sports movie. Obviously, there are some great ones that sort of buck the trend. Friday Night Lights, Rocky, movies like that are. I'm not saying there can't be great sports movies. I'm just saying the well is limited of what you can draw from.
Yeah.
And so, they all kind of have these similar arcs. A lot of them have these similar arcs to them. And this is a fairly formulaic movie. But I think it had some heart to it, though. I think the people involved took it seriously and really cared about it. And I think that shows in the overall quality of the movie. I thought it was fun. It was perfectly serviceable as like an enjoyable, who's going to win, who's going to make it, who's going to not kind of sports movie. I had a pretty good time with it. Yeah.
Nice. Ben, what did you think of Hustle?
Yeah, I'll agree pretty much exactly with Tiny. It doesn't upend the formula or subvert your expectations most of the time. But it's still a pretty enjoyable, summer Netflix movie. And Adam Sandler is pretty good in it. I think this is not his best performance, but one of his better performances lately. And he's been on a real roll the last couple of years. Uncut Gems, Meyerowitz Stories, Doobie Halloween, and he's pretty good here. I mean, it goes beyond the line readings and everything. I think he really inhabits this character really well.
Yeah,
I liked the way that the basketball sequences were filmed and edited together. I think there was a real energy there. I liked the fact that most of the basketball players, if not all of them, are real basketball players.
Yeah.
Pretty enjoyable time.
Yeah, I'll agree. I obviously did not have as energetic opinion of this movie as I did with Thor, but I think that, like, Tiny, you hit the nail on the head. It is very much a serviceable sports movie. I felt like the things that I could take issue with, things like the Bo Cruz kind of felt a little bit. If it falls under, the movie itself kind of falls under the kind of tried and true formula that I don't like. That's like people, like mentors of like prodigal athletes, like using that mentorship to advance themselves. Like, it's more, it's just as much for him as it is for Bo Cruz. And I feel like the movie doesn't really give us enough of, at least not up top, it doesn't give us enough of a push as to, it doesn't really demonstrate to us the desire that Bo has to be an NBA star or anything. It's just literally like Adam Sandler sees him playing ball in Spain and brings him back to, brings him to the US to try to get him in the NBA. And it's all kind of through Adam Sandler's character's perspective and everything. But we do get stuff with Bo and his home life back in Spain, but it seems to be all filtered through the goals of Sugarman, played by Adam Sandler. So that's a minor like issue that I had with it, but I did kind of appreciate that mentor-mentee relationship, and I really think Adam Sandler he was phenomenal in it. He really played that role incredibly well and had this genuine quality to him that even though it was filtered through his own kind of like character and his motivations and stuff, I still believed it. I believed every second of it. Like, he is so authentic in this movie, and he just seems so authentic, and I think that's really a credit to Sandler's performance.
Yeah, I agree. He has that. He has this like subplot, I guess, of getting old and not really knowing how much longer he'll be able to keep up with it, which you really feel in Sandler and his performance. Yeah, and I'll agree. I think that Bo Cruz could have been fleshed out a little bit more. You get the nice bits with him and his daughter, and it's his mom, right? That's taking care of her. Okay.
Yeah.
You get those nice bits. But I think also you could have fleshed out Adam Sandler and Queen Latifah and their daughter's relationship together. Is it kind of, you get the impression that he's this like distant father figure who always lets her down and is never there for her, but they still kind of have a nice warm relationship in most of their scenes together. So I would have liked a little bit more exploration on that, their relationship.
I agree. That was a bit dropped in the movie, a little unexplored. I think the sports movies, like I was saying earlier, kind of tend to be made up of tropes. And that's okay. It can be fun. But the trope that bothered me the most in this movie was the inexplicably villainous character. The character Kermit Wiltz, the other kind of the top guy in the draft who's like number one, and like he keeps showing up for no reason, and he's inexplicably angry at this dude. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me. I kind of give some credit to Anthony Edwards who played him. And you know, the other athletes in the movie who are not actors, you know, I think they all did a pretty good job, especially Juancho Hernan Gomez. I think I pronounced that right. But yeah, I thought that Anthony Edwards did a pretty good job, but it was just like, I would prefer to see a movie where that guy is rooting for him and cheering for him and trying to help him, and he screws it up or something. Like, I think that would have been a much more satisfying piece of conflict than the guy just being an outright villainous for no reason. I thought that was just a silly trope that didn't fit, and I would have preferred to see something more creative for that character. But most of the other stuff I thought was just really good. And I think, like Ben was saying, I kind of like the all of the real basketball players being in the movie. I thought that was it made it feel more authentic. I think it wasn't. You had to think up all of these, all these actors of like athletes. I guess it felt genuine. I guess I like that part of it.
I kind of agree with you, Tiny, about Anthony Edwards' character. But I feel like, from what I remember of my days as an NBA prospect, I feel like that kind of, you know, antagonistic, braggadocious kind of character, I feel like I'm sure there are people like that out there, you know, just full of themselves and just trying to show off as much as possible. So I wasn't too bothered with that. I actually thought, when you mentioned the stock villain character, I thought you were going to talk about Ben Foster.
I did,
and his
too.
character.
I did too, and
that was a little.
Yeah, I was
a
just
little annoying.
Sorry.
Well, I wasn't super thrilled with Ben Foster doing that either. But there's already so many obstacles in the kid's way. You didn't need anything else, I guess. That's kind of my thought, but I don't know. The player Kermit Wiltz is the character's name. That just I don't know. It felt just too much for me, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. I do think Anthony Edwards, I think he was phenomenal in it. I think he did a really good job with it. My rationale or the reason why I accepted it and everything is that was, I mean, yes, he is very braggadocious. Like, the whole reason that he is even there, because he is like the number 2 prospect. Like they say, like, he's the number 2 prospect for the draft, but he wants to be the number 1. So that's why he is there for the scouts and everything. So, like, it's baked into it that, like, he is this this kind of arrogant guy. And him just being like a villain to Bo is fitting because he's trash talking, which is common obviously in sports, but it's also kind of it gives Bo more of an arc in that he is a hothead. He's displayed, or he's shown as a violent personality who can't keep his cool under pressure, or he takes things personally. And that kind of helps inform the mentor relationship with Adam Sandler as well. And that kind of gives him more of an arc through the movie itself. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I did have a problem with Ben Foster. Just that I think he was underutilized, and I feel like there wasn't really like a final like big comeuppance scene with Adam Sandler and Ben Foster in the movie for my liking. So yeah, I don't know. I felt like that was a little clunky, but again, it's a serviceable sports drama that is supposed to be like super inspirational and tug at the heartstrings a little, and it delivered on those fronts for me. And as much as it delivered its Netflix subscription price value to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else to say about it, really.
Honestly, me neither. We can cut this down a little short. Do you think? What did you guys rate it on Letterboxd?
I gave it 3.5 stars.
Nice.
And I think that's mostly, and I actually almost gave it 4 stars.
Wow.
I think that's mostly because I was kind of viewing this in the context of the larger Happy Madison canon.
Yeah.
And this is like, I have my rankings of all of the Happy Madison movies on Letterboxd, and I think I put this on either number 2 or number 3.
Oh, wow.
So,
what's your number 1?
Funny People.
Funny People? Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a Happy Madison production?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Tiny, what did you rate Hustle?
I gave it 3 stars. Again, I had a good time with it. I think if you're especially in the mood for a sports movie, I think it's really going to scratch that itch for you. It totally plays that role. So yeah, I had a fun time with it.
Nice.
I think I also had in mind the other 2022 Happy Madison sports movie, Home Team.
Oh yeah.
With Kevin James, where he's playing Sean Payton, and this is like Citizen Kane compared to that.
I believe you wholeheartly. Yeah. I rated Hustle 3 stars. I thought it was fine. I rated it half a star more than I rated Thor: Love and Thunder. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was fine. I hope that Adam Sandler does more dramatic roles like this, because I think he's really good in it. So yeah. So
hey, real quick, I had this thought last night as I was coming home from the Thor screening.
Mm-hmm.
But if Adam Sandler were to ever be in the MCU, I don't know what franchise or what character I would want him to play necessarily, but what franchise do you think he would fit best in? Spider-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy, or
I could see him playing a weird alien in Guardians. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you guys have seen those like memes that have floated around online where it's like, if they had made Avengers in the 90s, this would be the cast. Tom Cruise is Tony Stark, Iron Man, and I can't even remember some of the other ones. But Adam Sandler is Ant-Man in the 1990s.
I like that.
Absolutely spot on. But I could also see him like doing the voice of Groot.
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah, I think he could fit in.
Oh, I'm sure
I
he
do
will.
too.
I mean, the MCU is swallowing up actors left and right, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just a matter of time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he
yeah.
could be in the next Black Panther movie.
I could see him as as Groot and just saying like, I am Groot. Good one to go. Or I don't know. I can't do an Adam Sandler impression, but that goofy fucking voice he uses.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Doing the little Nicky voice.
Oh God. Yeah. If they hadn't already gotten
Jesus.
Seth Green for this cameo, it would have been cool to see him do Howard the Duck. That would have been interesting.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So is that it for this episode?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
All I got.
All right. Well, while we wind down, Ben, why don't you tell us where we can find all of your stuff online and anything you have coming up on the interwebs?
Yeah, just go to themoviestate.com. One of my best of the year so far lists, you may or may not see Adam Sandler from Hustle on.
Nice.
Other than that, no real plans for anything coming up just yet, but be on the lookout. Other than Marcel the Shell with shoes on, I don't have too much coming down the pike as of right now. I'm sure something will come up, but just keep refreshing your browser.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, once again, check out Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for a ton of bonus content and everything, including all of my Stranger Things reviews, which was the last episode of the podcast, and as well as my Stephen King short fiction reviews. I've done Night Shift, Skeleton Crew, and I'm working on Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I also do immediate reaction reviews and the occasional commentary track and something else I'm forgetting. Oh, TV episode reviews. I'm going to do Severance soon. Super excited about that. But that'll do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. It's a pretty unique story for King, I would say, in that it is very much, it's kind of recounting a lot of oddities throughout Castle Rock, and all centered around this house and I guess the previous occupants of it. To be honest, I'm going to say up front, I didn't really care for this story. It's very meditative and kind of how to phrase it. It's very meditative and very much kind of in its own world in a sense, which makes sense because I mean that's what fiction is really. But it kind of takes its time. King goes through a lot of history with characters in Castle Rock and about this house as well, and it just kind of feels a little bit unconnected to me.
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.